Brother Salim,
Okay, go ahead.
I hope, yes, thank you. I hope you don't mind. I know that's a very important question that you're also posing, but I think I just want to tackle on because that's a very important thing that Des brought up about Justice Mogoeng. One of the things that he also said, and I think it was the media downplayed it and it was missed in the media. And he was, in fact, the one that was advocating that people should oppose the lockdown. And in fact, that he was actually the one that was saying that if your human rights is being violated, you should actually challenge it because he was actually the one that said that human rights is above the constitution. And then, of course, as from our perspective, we now see he's being targeted by the media for having supported the state of Israel. You know, knowing what the people's viewpoints are, and we know how the media works, and everybody jumped on the bandwagon and criticized him and destroyed his character and so on. You know, because uh, we don't know what he said, but the media had turned it such that he was actually supporting the state of Israel, and so everybody targeted him. And I think this is on a very important point here because this is what they were, why they wanted to target him, because he was taking on the system full frontal.
And
Yeah.
I actually want to come in and I want to address both of those things that Salim said and Fakhri, what you also touched on. And the first thing that's important to note is that Chief Justice Mogoeng, he's on our side. They will attack him. I put out a video the moment they started attacking him. I've seen the transcript. He was in an interview speaking to people. He wasn't supporting Israel. It was a default saying that any decent human being would say under the circumstances. So just to put that out of the way, and they would target him for that. And it's deliberate targeting because the Constitutional Court judgment, and this is key, and this can be another discussion too, that found that we should be able to directly elect our representatives in Parliament.
Yep.
Is a huge problem for government now. Massive. I mean, this isn't a small thing. My wife and I was involved in the process of speaking to the people from New Nations Movement. I actually met with the leader, Bulalani. We were in discussions in meeting. We were actually at Advocate Nelson's home and met with many people interested in freeing our country. None of these people are politicians, but believe me, there's a big movement on the ground to move away from this system that's run by the New World Order. And these people aren't interested in all of their agencies and stooges and what have you. So the Chief Justice will be targeted. The plan at the time was to ask him to run for president. The reason why he declined, he said he knows the next appointment will be a New World Order appointment, and this country is gone. He was the one that said, no, it will not be a state of emergency. You can implement a state of disaster if you want to. And there was an argument between him and Cyril Ramaphosa. And what happened subsequently is he came out and said, people, I will keep the courts open, because Cyril wanted to close the courts.
Yeah.
He said, I am keeping the courts open and you should challenge the government. Go to the courts. How long did the people take to go to the courts? And this is the problem. The people don't realize their rights. And many of them have asked me on the channel to explain the constitutional rights to them because I actually don't know. Is it taught in school? Are your rights taught to you in school? No. The school is a system to take those rights and the thought of rights away from you and just teach you obedience, 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 blind obedience. Okay? And this is where it comes into the fact that a state of emergency is what the government wanted. And as you said, Salim, the problem is that our government still wants a state of emergency. Now, how do you make this happen? Okay, I shouldn't say our government, the stooges behind them that control them, because they're not even clever enough to come up with a state of emergency. They're that thick. I mean, when you actually meet these people and speak to them, as I have, you will realize that they can't organize anything. You know, the famous saying about what you can do in a brewery, they can't even do that. That is how pathetic they are. But they are our elected officials and they have people behind them telling them what to do. And I know about these meetings taking place continuously, where the United Nations, the European Union, people from Canada, France, Germany, Belgium, all over, comes into meetings and tells our people how to run our government. They even teach them how to tax us more. And they sit in these meetings and they just listen. So, yeah, so what is happening is our government is not in control of anything. So how do you get people to fear, firstly, and how do you start a state of emergency? I can tell you, Mogoeng will not our state of emergency under any circumstances at this stage, because he knows what they're trying to do. So they have to force it to the point where Cyril, as the commander and chief of the military, actually sends the military in, which is already done. He's already done that. So he's not allowed to do that under the Disaster Management Act, except for the military to go and assist people in removing logs out of roads, getting them to their houses, saving them in floods, or whatever the case may be. Our Disaster Management Act was not written for a pandemic at all. So I don't believe that, firstly, that there will be a race war in this country. It will not happen. But the New World Order agencies is trying to fire it up. So they are working with a right wing and they're working with a left wing. And they are inciting them. They are inciting them to anti-Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, white versus black, and all sorts of other methods of actually inciting hatred amongst people. So that is their agenda. Salim, you're 100% right. But the thing is, will they get it right? Because to legally implement the state of emergency, you need to get past Mogoeng, and an entire bench of the Constitutional Court. And I can tell you now that many other things will happen before that actually goes down. So the hands are cut off right now and they're frustrated. So they're going to try other things. They're going to try and break us down as much as they can. People can't fly out of the country at the moment. There's a lot of things still that people can't do. And what is happening is there's a lot of interesting dynamics behind the scene. There's a local government election coming up next year. Okay? And then in 3 years' time after that, there's national elections again. They've got 2 years to change the Electoral Act. It was called unconstitutional. How big that is. The entire parliament right now is unconstitutional. Think about what that means. It's been a farce from the beginning, and they knew it. I've been in this fight for direct election now since forever. Now, whether people think that that's the best system or not is irrelevant. The party system is a coup on our country. So when they built the party system into our constitution, they did it purely so that they can be controlled from outside countries. And the Concord has now had 2 hits on the New World Order. The first hit was that parties have to disclose their funding. Okay? That's the first one. So now the DA and the ANC are running out of funds because no one wants to show that they've been funding them. But the fact that they made it 100,000 Rand, that is absolutely pathetic, and it should be still be challenged in the Constitutional Court. Because remember, the Concord is not going to tell the president what they should come up with. Now you must take this new act, which the president has signed, you must take it back to the Concord and say, this can't be 100,000, this must be 10,000, because you can pay a lot of 100,000 rands. But the ANC's wage bill, which they can't pay this month, are you aware of that? They actually couldn't pay their staff. They're running out of funds. So they are desperate to create anything at this stage where they can get their hands on more money. And this is the key. So they will create anarchy in places to justify releasing funds from your pensions and from many other places, and people won't ask questions. That's why so many things that they're doing are pure distractions. The farmer tax, you'll see people driving the farmer tax agenda, and then people will be driving this and that agenda. Farmer tax have been happening since forever. They are orchestrated attacks, they are planned, the people are brutally just beaten up. Most of the time things aren't stolen. They want those people to move into the cities. They want to drive fear into people. It's fear-mongering. So, the state of emergency is what they want, Salim. You're 100% right. I'm not sure that they're going to get it right constitutionally. So they need to try and force it.
I mean, we're getting closer to your time out period, and I wanted to know, how do we circumvent the issue of becoming slaves of the 30%?
Okay, now you are... Okay, now you've asked the most important question so far, I believe. And how you do that is you make yourself as independent of government and corporations as you can. Independent electricity-wise, water-wise, food-wise, any-wise, make yourself independent because they rely on your dependence. This is how the New World Order works. The Rothschilds have put a system in place to enslave us to the monetary system. And I mean, you people are already converted to what I'm saying because of your religious beliefs. You want to be outside of that system. And we need to encourage everyone to do that. Everybody. Because we need all religions, all different racial groups to be in this fight together against the New World Order. We cannot do it separately. It just won't work. Yeah. So there needs to be huge ground action where you go into your communities, all of you, and start speaking to people at schools, at your mosques, wherever, and start telling people about this. I'm starting a roadshow where I'm going around the country, and I will gladly come to your communities and speak to people, not more than 12, because I want to be able to really
connect with them.
Connect with them, and so they can ask me questions. But I'm open from today to do that. I announced that this morning. So please, all it's going to cost me is fuel money, and people have donated without me asking any money. Okay, they've actually donated towards the account. So I have fuel money. I can drive around Cape Town. I can come and see people. It's not going to cost a cent, and speak to them so that you can ask me the detailed questions, and so that we can actually take this discussion further, because we need foot soldiers on the ground. We need to do the same thing that the New World Order did. Getting into every house with a television, getting into every child with a cell phone. Take your cell phones away from your kids. Shut down the television. Don't look at the adverts. I haven't had a TV in my house for 12 years. Yeah. Take all those influences away. Make sure you can get as much food from your local community as you can. And this is what my wife, Lauren, is doing. She started the Organic Humanity Movement, which is based on principles and values. And the values is love, justice, love, knowledge, justice, and action. Because justice has to be a part of what we do. So love, knowledge, justice, and action. And then you govern around communities. And there's 6 principles by which you govern. Liberty being the first one. Protection of life. Looking after the earth. You know, basic, simple things. And not conspiracies about the globe overheating and whatnot. Look at your local river. See what it looks like. Look what estate agents have done to it. Because remember, the banking system, and you wanted me to touch on that, the banking system and the estate agents, they're working together. And the densification program is all part of that plan. They are building in flood zones.
Yeah.
River flood zones. And now they canaling up rivers. In the Kuils River where I live, I used to catch fish in there. Now it's just a concrete canal.
Yeah.
I mean, why on earth do they do these things? So we need to ask these questions. It's very, very important that we make ourselves independent of government and independent of large corporations. Who owns Shoprite Checkers? Christo Wiese. Yes. He's a broederbonder. He is part of the problem.
You've been saying right now in the last 5 minutes for years. And the disappointing thing was I've been speaking to people coming from my own religious background, largely on a radio station. I promise you, I either didn't go in their ear or it went in the ear and came out the other ear immediately, because very few people actually took heed of what I was saying until the lockdown happened. And then people started phoning me. It's a big challenge because of the mind control, and people don't know what you're saying. But I've been talking about anti-corporate activity for years. I've been telling people to get out of the corporate system. I studied this corporate system. It's a satanic system, right?
Yes.
The very idea of a corporation, which is an entity on its own, it's actually a name that's been given rights and authority, becomes a person with rights and authority. That is satanic. You are the highest creation of God, and God has given you unalienable rights. And from satanic mind to create a construct which has rights above you as a human being, that is satanic beyond belief. But everybody's in that system and they don't see anything wrong with it.
And they are actually funding it?
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head by saying, get out of that corporate system. Be independent. I must meet with Nadia now on Friday. We're going to chat about that because we've been talking about that. I've been talking about this for years. I belong to a group that tried to get off the grid for a long time. It's not easy, but it's really the solution, the ultimate solution. You can't have this, yeah.
Can I tell you what my dad actually said? He said, until the people only have the clothes on their backs, they will not listen to you. Yeah, and he was right.
Absolutely.
Correct. I agree.
Very tragic, tragic.
If I can just come in there, and because I think it was mentioned right at the beginning, and Des just mentioned it now about the banking system and economics, because there's ways and means that we can get out of the electricity grid. We can get off the electricity grid. We can get off the water. We can save our water, get balls and things like that, and we can perhaps even look at other actions, because I think all of us here on the panel would agree to what Des was saying. We must become independent, but the banking system is a challenge, and until such time as because our money is being managed by a private entity, this presents a problem, and because we are now being driven into a cashless society, this becoming even more of a challenge. So Des, maybe just on that, how we become independent from that system?
Okay, well, that's actually very simple. I have started that process 2 years ago. It's not easy, it takes long. The first thing you need to do is not have a bank account that is funded by no money. So there's certain banks in the country that don't have their own funds. So how many banks do you know in South Africa right now that actually have their own capital?
Almost nothing.
I'm asking you.
No. Bank.
They don't have capital. They create the money when you go for a loan. You actually, as the borrower, creates the money through your...
Okay. Well, there is actually one bank. There's actually one bank that is a genuine bank. And there might be some others, but CAPITEC has their own finances. And that is why they actually don't give certain things, because they don't have the capital to do it.
I didn't know that. That is news to me.
They actually have millions. It's like they used to be the old Boland Bank in Paarl, and it worked on the old basis still. So that's why CAPITEC only has savings accounts. They don't have check accounts because they can't just give you big loans or whatever. The loans that they do give people are limited because they only have so much funds to actually give loans with. And that's why their fees are so low. So the first thing I did is I closed my Nedbank account. I closed my Absa accounts, even with my business. And I'm just on a CAPITEC account. So that helped me to get out of the system where people are generating funds for themselves without having the funds, which is theft. I mean, it's nothing but theft. And it's a Rothschild invented system. So CAPITEC is one of the banks. They might change in future. I mean, I'm not a CAPITEC promoter, but I know that since I went there, it was true banking. I was actually getting interest every month and I wasn't being charged a fortune. And that has changed my life a lot, because I can tell you between Absa and Nedbank, I was spending about 3,000 a month in banking charges, especially with my business. It cost a fortune. So that's one way of saving money. The other thing is the sale of fear. In other words, policies, life insurance, funeral insurance, it's endless, the fear that we are funding. Where if you actually 100%, if you take that and you put that money together every month over a period of time, and the community look after each other, that changes everything. Our government hospitals are supposed to be top notch. And that's why I brought out a video where I said all government officials have to use public transport, have to use government hospitals, and you'll see how quickly they fix it up. It's not that we don't have money. We do have money to do it. It's not going to South Africa. It's going overseas. The UK and the US has been plundering our fiscus, and they do it via people that are the Guptas and all these others that they blame. But these people are just agents. That's all. And if you don't see that, you're a fool, because no intelligence agency is going to allow a person to steal a country's fiscus dry. They don't understand anything when they believe that nonsense.
Yeah, look,
I'm glad you touched on that point, yes.
Yeah, on the button there, Des. In healthcare, basically, I still set up an institute to get out of the corporate system because the technocrats have taken over healthcare, basically.
Yes, yeah, a long
so
time
technocracy, which is tentacles is everywhere, And in healthcare, I realized that way back then, I didn't even know the term technocracy in 2002, 2003, but I got to learn the term later on. But I knew the technocrats were taking over, or people controlling the healthcare system through technology. And I wrote a proposal to the Medical Association, a paper actually, because I analyzed the whole system in the primary healthcare system. And I told the Medical Association about it, and I said, this is my proposal, get out of the corporate system. They just ignored me, understandably.
Yeah, of course. But at least you tried.
At least I still have the paper.
Tried,
I still have the paper. If anybody wants to read
the
paper,
I commend you for that.
Yeah.
I commend you for that.
Thank you.
You have to understand the
demographic system. The technocrats have taken over literally everything. And in healthcare, you stand no chance if you're paying a medical aid every month. You're losing big time. Like they said, don't pay insurance, don't pay medical aid, don't pay all this junk, because they're stealing your money. Literally, they're doing stealing your money. And that's how and come to the banking system, these families, okay, the elites, the globalists, basically what they're doing is they're exchanging fake currency for real assets. So if you go for a loan, they're giving you fake currency and they're taking your house, which is a real asset, a hard asset, you call a hard asset, a property. They take it from you and exchanging it for fake currency. And it's happening all over the place, repossessions of real homes because people can't repay those fake loans. I mean, this is insanity.
On securitized loans, which means they don't even own the title deeds.
They sell the damn loan off also.
Yeah, which they're not allowed to do. You can actually get a house for free like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It is because of the demographics. And South Africa is a prime example of the challenges because of the new South Africa, that everybody is trying to be middle class and upper middle class. And that is the target market for the New World Order and for the state, because that's where you're going to make your money from. And you delude the people by thinking they can have all these grand jobs, and people are all rushing into it and believing everything they hear. And that's why they're going to the corporate market, because it sounds so grand for them. And they don't understand that they can actually do things aside and actually be successful. They don't understand that success for them is the corporate world.
I think the politicians are very good at making false promises. I remember Jacob Zuma saying we're going to create 500,000 jobs or something some few years ago. I don't think that materialized, but people believed him when he said it at the time.
Well, he didn't say the speech was written for him. The same as all of Cyril Ramaphosa's speeches. I try to make people realize things that should be obvious, but obviously aren't. Cyril doesn't write his speeches. Someone writes it for him and he reads it off a teleprompter. Yep. I don't know if you've seen his face. He's looking knackered. He's sick and tired of this lot. I can tell you that, because he doesn't want to be...
Sounds like Barack Obama also did the same thing.
Well, the thing is, if you watch my video on Cyril Ramaphosa, it's my biggest video. It's got over 33,000 views now. It started off slowly and just grew because no one knew that Cyril was actually earmarked for the position where he is now years ago, when he was practically out of school, okay? And he started numb. And how the Oppenheimers bought him. He needed money. I mean, it's a simple thing. It's not the rocket science. But the thing is, it's important that we implement solutions now. That is why I'm going to go to communities. I'm going to speak to people. I'm going to go into their homes and talk to them about what I know. And we need to provide solutions. And the solutions are really simple. And look out for the false flag events, because there's many of them coming. Mm. And this whole fear of a state of emergency, as long as Mogoeng is there, it won't happen. I can guarantee you that, okay? He's on our side, and he's speaking to the right people, and they will protect him. And we need to speak out for him and protect him, because we are one man away from throwing this country down the toilet, in which case we literally need to stand up and take government back. We won't have any other choice. Because the military was sent out into our streets to police us. And this is what I wanted to mention earlier. They weren't sent into the streets to help people in the middle of a disaster, like an earthquake or fire or flood situation. They were sent out to police us. Firstly, they're not trained to police. And secondly, they have no right to enforce anything on the South African people at all. They're supposed to protect our borders only.
Only, yeah.
That's it. So at the moment, our government is huge. We don't need a big government. A government that's useless gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't know if you are aware, but 58 cents in a rand of our tax money goes towards government salaries. Another 22 cents goes towards paying debt back. That's 80 cents in a rand. So 20 cents only goes towards the people in the country. And we have enough. That's the good news. We actually have enough money to turn this country around. But the people all over South Africa, from the most rural setting to the city, needs to be aware and needs to decide what side of this fight are they going to be on. What side of history are they going to put themselves on? Are they going to be on the side of good or on the side of evil? This is not rocket science. It's a choice, and it's an ideological choice. And there's evil forces behind what is happening because it's been coming over centuries. This is not one person. They are just enablers. And if people understand this, and they can understand that evil is behind what's happening and that it's being sold as this utopia, then they can start opening their eyes. That this vaccine that they want to give us is not going to be our saving grace. We don't need a vaccine. The evidence tells us we don't need one. And we know a vaccine cannot be developed that fast. It's impossible. So it all becomes pointless when they say these things, and I highlight that in my videos, and YouTube doesn't take it down because I stick to facts. And that's very important, that we stick to the facts and then get people to believe what we say. And they must do their own research. They must do their own research and make the knowledge their own. And once the knowledge is yours, you can do a lot with it. Now, I have tons of documents. I mean, this piece of paper here, you can have a look at it, is from 1990. It's a sheet with all the names of the people on the council, the CFR of Foreign Relations, and the Trilateral Connection.
Rockefeller.
It was sent from Canada, from someone in the spy network there, to my dad many years ago. And it highlights everything. So these reports have been put out in the spy network for a very, very long time, so that you know who you're facing. And the number of organizations involved there is mind-blowing. So that's why there's a committee of 300 that oversees all of these actions. It's a huge undertaking. The other thing I want to tell you, the people in that committee don't think that they are evil. They believe they're saving the world. They literally believe that. And my dad realized, but these people actually believe this rubbish they speak, that they actually believe that they're going to save us with a depopulation plan. They want 500 million people in the world. They've decided already that that is what can be carried in the metros around the world in these new smart cities. And the rest of them will leave the planet. Literally. That's a plan. I'm not saying they're going to get it right. That's why there's a huge drive for people to leave the planet at this stage and go and colonize Mars and the moon and fit knows what else. I mean, it's fascinating what they're actually funding. Do you think for 1 second Elon Musk has the money to do what he's doing right now? Anyone that believes that is mad. I mean, he's getting funded. He practically went bankrupt. He put all his money into SpaceX. He had nothing left. He could hardly eat. And then all of a sudden, he's sending rockets into space and he's sending astronauts into space. How much does that cost? He didn't have the funds for that. Where did it come from? Do the research. Another thing, when you think that world governments are at war, I want you to go and look at the ITER project, ITER, for the largest fusion reactor being built in France right now. Top secret operation that has now gone public. You still won't be able to see the site fully on Google Earth. But all the nations in the world is working on it. Friends, side by side. All this fighting nonsense is all fakery. All these windmills, propellers I call them, and solar panels that they roll out was all to fund these nuclear reactor programs because they need these reactors to run the grids that they're going to need to control our very lives. And they need reactors that don't need to be manned by a lot of people. Think about what I've just said. And once you put that picture together, you'll see where we fit. South Africa fits into the big picture worldwide. And that's an interesting place. Everything in this country is about nuclear energy and nuclear weapons. We still have our 200 kilograms of weapon-grade plutonium. It's still at Palindaba. And Jacob Zuma refused to give it to Barack Obama. He came here to ask for that. And he said no. So we're still sitting with highly enriched uranium that's been molded into ingots, and we can use that to form more nuclear weapons. We have not fully proliferated.
No, that's an interesting subject to chat about, and maybe you should set up a session just for that also. There's so many things to talk about, so little, as they say. I think I'm going to conclude the discussion now, unless anybody has anything else to say. And I'd like to thank Des. And Des, if you're interested, I think we'd like to set up another discussion sometime in the near future. And
anytime.
Community talks, you know, if you want us to assist you or attend with you or somehow get involved, you know, if anybody here wants to get involved, because I'm happy to get involved, let us know, and we can talk, you know, take it from there. But anybody want to say anything else before we conclude this discussion? Any questions, suggestions, comments?
Can I just ask my question?
Yes, go ahead, Nadia.
Since Des has been talking now about the nuclear power stations, will the nuclear power stations be run or headed by, powered by fifth generation technology?
It's not possible. They already have nuclear power stations running on computers that has got numerous failover modes, but fifth generation technology cannot run a nuclear power station. You still need a licensed reactor operator that can actually touch a touch screen to enable certain things, and you still have the same three-way communication in the control room. You're still going to have a supervisor, and then a head supervisor, and as well as a senior shift supervisor in every control room. So 3 people per control room, per unit, running it with all the auxiliary staff. Nothing will change except that the plants are actually computerized. So fifth generation won't be used. There's still hard wires running to every piece of equipment. The moment you do radio transmission on a nuclear power station, you open up a very bad beast. And that's why you cannot take things like cell phones on site at Koeberg Nuclear Power Station, even although they do no radio transmission on site, just in case you could activate a relay or something like that. And these are strict protocols that are followed within the nuclear industry. So you cannot use fifth generation transmission to run a nuclear reactor, and that will never happen.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Des. Thanks for the question, Nadia. I'm going to conclude this discussion now, and want to thank Des and all the attendees today, you know, for your participation in this discussion. I learned a lot, and I think it was fruitful. I don't know how you guys feel, but I think it was very fruitful. And thank you, Des, for your expertise and knowledge, advice, etc. We'd like to have another discussion sometime in the near future. If you're okay with
that. That'll be great, and maybe we can cover 1 or 2 topics so that we can delve deeper into it and actually get everyone to cover the questions, the specific questions that they have, because it's quite a large panel now in this discussion. It's the first time that we've done that, but I'll make myself available in future. It's important that we have these discussions, and it's important that action comes from it. Otherwise, we're all wasting our time. If there's no action and hope, there is hope. We can beat this, especially in South Africa. So that's the last thing that I want to say.
Thank you very much, Des. No, you're very much very welcome. And thanks everybody for attending, and thanks for that, Des. I like your last words. There is hope. I agree with you there. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks everybody.